Okay, welcome back. We're up to the 1800 6 p.m. turn of battle at Rutherfords Farm. So the battle so far, as you can see, has come down to both the Union and the Confederates locking horns there in the woods in the middle. We'll talk more about that here in a minute. I just want to point out in terms of what the AMs look like. First off, for efficiencies, Confederates got 3, Union got 4. So Union had a slight advantage in terms of the AMs. But the Confederates won the initiative, and they started out with Ramseur activating his division and getting them moving over here, trying to recover a little bit from the attack. They brought up Lilly a little bit further, and Ramseur himself came up, filled in the gaps over here with Lewis. Lewis taking the point, Ramseur behind him, and then the 21st North Carolina behind them. Nelson is positioned facing northwest now to potentially fire into the Union units that are attacking over here. Johnson is positioned here as well, although he is a little bit beat up, and I'll talk about that here in a moment. Over to the right, we have Jackson, who started up here but got pushed back over here to where they are, and I'll talk about that here a little bit more later. Union, you can see, is pretty thin. They're stretched out quite a bit along the line here in the woods, and then up towards Rutherfords Farm itself, as well as over here towards Jackson. Now, getting back to our AMs and how they came out, you can see the spread was, again, we get a lot of groupings. I tend to get a lot of groupings here. We've got both 2nd Cavalry and Army of West Virginia coming out after the Army of Virginia. But then there's a streak of Army of Virginia's and cavalry came out, and then another streak of Union, and then Confederate, and then Union. So it did alternate, but it does kind of group a little bit there as well. Okay, coming back to the battle here. So as I was saying, the lines are pretty much formed here. We've got a couple of situations here that are tricky for both sides. First off, we'll start over here on the Confederate right, Union left. The 34th Ohio has been able to hold off Johnson's entire division with the help of Shoemaker's cavalry armed with Spencer carbines. Now, they have been able to drive back Jackson, knock out 2 regiments, both the 46th and 47th Battalion on here with the Sharps carbines. And nothing special. Their units are still mounted, so they don't get the special double fire bonus on the turn, but still, fire from them is devastating when you get close. +3 modifiers when they're 1 hex away. That's why you can see Jackson running away here a little bit, because he does not want to get close. Wants to stay out of range of them because he has no firepower except for his charging ability to get in there. So they're pretty devastating. They've also devastated part of Johnson's, as I talked about last turn. But now Johnson has had to curl back here a little bit from Rutherfords Farm. They still control, the Confederates still control that because the sharpshooters got up there, but they were pushed back by the 34th Ohio over here. So, but we've got to start to watch out with BCE, BCI, depends on how you want to call it, brigade combat effectiveness or ineffectiveness. Jackson here is now under that state, and that's pretty much permanent for him because he has lost 2 units, plus the unit he is with right there has collapsed. They are down to 2 strength points just because they've been devastated by Shoemaker's Sharps carbines. So they're permanently, so there's 5 points, victory points for the Union, and it's going to be huge. And I'll talk about victory points here at the end. They're also, the 19th Virginia is also disrupted. but that's not going to be a factor with the BCE. That's pretty much permanent. But we've got others like Johnson who they've lost one unit, and you notice he's got one collapsed. So if they start to get one more collapsed or lost, which all of these are fairly light units. Oops. That should be 2, not 1. All of these are sitting in a position where one loss or 2 losses are going to knock them out completely, and they're going to be BCE. Same thing with Ramseur. He is in the same spot over here, so it's kind of gotten into a little bit defensive. You notice these guys have come out of attack mode so they can retreat if they are attacked. Same thing over here. It's become more of a shooting match over here, with each side shooting rather than charging. Although Duval has recovered these units that were being shot at, it's still a tough situation, particularly over here because the 9th West Virginia has done a great job at pushing them back and firing on them, and they're actually their flank over here is refused, so they can fire at both them and do some damage potentially. Now we've also got cavalry in the woods that is holding out the right flank of the 9th West Virginia, and they're holding over here, but they've got a problem too. They've got low ammo, and of course the 31st Virginia and the 33rd Virginia and the other unit over here are right next to them, so they can't recover from that position here yet. So they're a little bit hampered, kind of holding the line. And then we have Vaughn over here, who had pushed forward and actually drove this collapsed 14th West Virginia from its defensive position up here back, but then was counterattacked by the 1st and 2nd West Virginia cavalry, or counter-shocked, I should say, and pushed them back and actually knocked one of their units out of the battle there as well. I forget which one it was now, but one of their units, and they've been pushed back with losses, and a few of these have been are disordered here as well, like this one up here. So Vaughn is threatening the flank over here, but he really can't get in. We may have him come over here and push against the rear into the woods, but it's going to be tough because he can't charge into the woods. They can shock into the woods, but they can't charge. So that's going to be a little bit tricky. Plus we have Powell's units coming up over here to support this particular flank once again. Union artillery pounding the center over here of Johnson, as well as Nelson trying to line up over there. So we've gotten to the point that it's just banging away at each other, hitting each other very, very hard, and trying to knock out units to make them BCE or eliminated, in this case of cavalry, with this. So as I said, this is the 1800 turn. Let's come over here and talk about victory points. So here we can see Union victory points is actually sitting at 13. Between the BCE for 5, there's 8 other cavalry victory points that have been lost so far. Very, very tough for the Union, or for the Confederates now, because the Confederates are slightly off camera here. I can't tip it down enough for you guys to see it. They're only sitting at 3 victory points at this point. So there's a difference of 10, which is a I think it's a substantial victory. I have to look back in the book here real quick in terms of what this is. It's a marginal victory. Okay. But one thing that's saving them though is they have control. They still have control of Rutherfords Farm, so that actually shifts it down to a draw. So even though they've got 10 victory points, it's still a draw. The Union has to take this to make this a marginal victory for them. So we're going to see some fighting for this, and we'll see probably, should get the camera over here, Rutherfords Farm, that is. There'll be some fighting over here for this because I don't think Johnson's going to move back. They're going to try to hold that to keep that. reduction of victory level for the Union, as well as I think Vaughn is going to try to come back here and attack, and hopefully Ramseur's others, Lilly and Lewis, can just hold here and pin them so that Vaughn can counterattack. Jackson, in the meantime, he's got to flee back here. Shoemaker is going to be a wild card because now he can essentially just screen off Jackson, but potentially go after units over here, particularly the rear units, with close firing. Not necessarily charging, just firing on them, because they do have the Spencer carbines over here, which can be pretty devastating and most likely will get a step loss. Again, if they lose one more unit either to collapsed or eliminated, they are going to go BCE, and that's going to be devastating for them as well. So that's where we stand at the end of the 6 p.m. or at the start of the 6 p.m. turn, end of the 5 p.m. turn, and we'll move on from there. So hopefully enjoying this, and please stay tuned for the next turn. Welcome back to the battle at Rutherfords Farm, July 20th, 1864. Playing with Great Battles of the American Civil War, Death Valley expansion. Actually just Death Valley, not with the expansion. And we're up to turn 6 p.m., 1800. And probably here it's going to be called here very quickly. But I get ahead of myself here. Let's talk about the activations. So with the activations, you can see over here, Confederates, they only had 2 activations for this turn for each of their brigades, the cavalry and the 2nd Army of Virginia, Ramseur's division. And the Union had 4, which was pretty devastating on them, and we'll take a look at that here in 1 second here. But you can see how they laid out. Union had the start, Confederates came in, and then Union finished off here at the bottom half of the turn. So with this, here's the situation now with the units and what has happened. So our lines generally look like this. We have Shoemaker over here, Averell over here. Duval is stretched around here, and then we have Powell over here, who's chased off Vaughn over here on the Confederate left, Union right. They were chased away. They have no firepower. Powell has breech-loader carbines. Any type of fire with them is pretty devastating, especially if it's close. So they just retreated back as they started taking losses from those shots. They did recover some units, but they really didn't have enough punch to go back and charge them. There was a little bit of back and forth over here before, but the Union basically just pushed them back. With 4 activations to 3 or to 2, it was really tough for the Confederate Vaughn to keep them up there. Over towards the infantry in the center, continuing story of just kind of holding the line. Lilly trying to attack here to push back, failed. In fact, they lost another unit. The 13th Virginia was lost over here in the back and forth fighting. Not really strong enough to assault, to push them back. So left with that, just kind of a bit of a back and forth here, and just kind of basically holding. That's probably the best thing that's happened for the Confederates over here. In the center, the 91st was able to push back more of Ramseur's brigade, and actually one unit here, this one collapsed as part of it. The 6th North Carolina is now collapsed, and now with 2 units eliminated already. That puts them in a brigade combat effective. And now that adds 5 more victory points to the Union. Union pushed forward. Confederates, again, just with 2 activations, couldn't really do anything. They had to recover, just to stay where they were. Nelson is still here, but he doesn't have any targets. These are blocked here and here. 23rd North Carolina, the sharpshooters over here, tried to engage with the 54th Ohio. Came out on the bad end of this and the stick, and were disordered. The rest of the units are just kind of holding on because Shoemaker and his devastating Sharps carbines are moving up on his flank, as well as the artillery is pounding them from the north. Averell over here is just kind of holding on to the collapsed unit, just keeping them in place and providing cover for, or not cover, but morale support for him over here as well. And then finally Jackson over here, he is combat ineffective still, tried to recover, lost units, so lost some strength points, so it's really in a tough situation for them. So the Union has been able to continue to push much to the historical narrative that occurred. Didn't really break the line. This was a full rout in the end, but has managed to push them back and really whittle down Lewis and Johnson's brigades, as well as the cavalry brigades over there as well. With that brings the Union victory point total up to 19 to the Confederates 3. Union also holds Rutherfords Farm here. I don't see how the Confederates can recover this. Johnson could try to attack on here and push them back, but even if they've got it, Union has a substantial victory, or beyond. I think the next one up there, I can't remember what that is, but the Union has, pretty much the top level victory. So even if they captured it back, they would knock the Union back from a strategic victory to a substantial victory on there as well. Again, still Union victory within here. So I don't see a path for the Union to be able to, the Confederates to actually get more victory points to bring it close at that point. With 2 brigades now combat ineffective, that pretty much takes them out of line. And the Union, they're well away from being combat ineffective with Duval or Powell or Shoemaker. So it's it's pretty much in the Union hands at this point. So at that point, I'm actually going to call it at 6 p.m. as a Union victory, strategic victory over the Confederates. Interesting enough, as I said prior, this has looked very historical in terms of this play. I have had other plays with this that have gone differently. I've actually had a Confederate victory, but most of the time it's been a Union victory. And like I said, I use this as a learning game or teaching game for people as well, because I find that putting new people in as the Union, with the strength that the Union has and the weakness that the Confederate has, is a good balancing act for any new players. Plus the small footprint, as I mentioned in the introduction, makes a big difference here. But it is winnable by the Confederates. Takes a little bit of luck and skill to make it happen. This time the Confederates just didn't have the luck going with them, and I just pushed the Union as far as I could and just managed them well, as the Confederates had a tough situation. They always do, being at level 1 fatigue, to be able to maintain their lines in there as well. So bottom line, looking at this and reading about this too, I highly suggest people read about this battle as well, because this is very interesting. Kind of rearguard action that went awry with Ramseur trying to trap the Union, or get some sort of capturing of Union troops through an ambush type of thing, which is very, very interesting. It's also another good point of listening to your overall commanders strategically and doing what they had in mind. Because in this case, if Ramseur was just up in the north here of Winchester and just holding his line, this probably would have been a different situation, probably more of a minor skirmish rather than a major skirmish and turning into a small battle. This would have been much, much different on here as well. Averell, from the Union perspective, he played it as it was. He was a very cautious general and did not take many chances. And the same thing can be done here with Averell as well. He's got a small force, larger force in terms of number of units. Quality is about the same. Strength is definitely on the Union side. So if you play it a little bit conservatively, but look for the Confederate weaknesses, you will be able to exploit them and win the game, as we see here with this particular playthrough. So another interesting 160th playthrough for July 20th, 1864, and this would lead to Early retiring up the valley. Ultimately, Ramseur would be substantially reduced on here, but still a factor. He would still command his division, going into the fall of 1864, and subsequently would be part of a counterattack coming up with the Second Battle of Crimstown. That'll be the next one we will see. That happened actually 4 days later, as Early realized that the 6th Corps and the Army of the Potomac veterans had left the valley, and Crook was in possession of Winchester and the area. Crook came down, linked up with Averell here, and occupied Winchester, and then moved south towards Kernstown and positioned himself there. That would be a fateful battle, as we will see in our next playthroughs. So, with that, I thank you for watching Battle at Rutherfords Farm, July 20th, 1864, and look forward to the next set of battles that you'll see. If you like the videos, please hit that like button. Please comment. Please subscribe. And as I say with always, I have playlists for all of these, so you can go back to the playlists, watch everything right from one spot, and I will try to post this one up as a playlist on all the social media there as well. So, thanks for watching. Have a great day.